Whoa, look at that. Bruno Coppola first in tonight. Hot off the line. Hitting us up. Hey, man, it's Sunday. Time for another episode of America's first and favorite two-wheeled talk and entertainment show, Shop Talk. I'm your host, Chris Cowell with Cycle Source Magazine, getting ready for another 90 to 120 minutes of all the two-wheel bullshit we can fit. Little program we call Shop Talk, coming into your homes every Sunday, 9 p.m. on the East Coast. Get ready. We're 4 minutes away from launching this one. Man, you guys are piling in so fast tonight. Jeff McKinney in with us, Youngsville, PA. Ray's Moto Life, what's up? Jeremy Sather checking in from Minnesota. Steve Bates, sup, kids? Good to see all you guys. Hey, wherever you're watching from, any of the 15 channels we broadcast Shop Talk through, all you have to do to participate in the show is go to the comment box on whatever social media channel you're watching. Put your comments in there. We'll get to them throughout the show. Jeremy Valentine, what's up, buddy? Greg White in from beautiful Lago Vista, Texas, where the sunrises are unparalleled, or sunsets. Sunrises too, but it's probably a little too late for that. Kevin Teach Bass in the house. Nick Hildebrittle, New York Harley rider. Mike Draco, Cincinnati, well represented. Troy Phillips, good to see all you guys in here tonight. Going to be a great show. We're recapping one of the most historic things I've seen happen in Sturgis. Absolutely killer at the Hall of Fame induction this year. We got to see the Motorcross Des Nations team that was literally the motorcycle equivalent of the Miracle on Ice. And we got to see a great interview that took place after hours in the museum basement. We're going to talk about that tonight. Lots of great stuff. Feature bike, some product stuff to get caught up on. Harry Bostard in the house with us. Bob Aaron. Block party was a blast. Speaking of New York, was it actually the last one?
Yeah.
What'd you say?
Well, that's what they're saying. Hasn't this been the third last one?
But I can't believe there wouldn't be a block party anymore.
Yeah, he'll do another one. They're too epic.
Professional Monkey, what's up, buddy? He had a better Smokeout recap show than I think we could have. Chase 22 Pittsburgh. Hey, Dawn, did you see my post? He put a grease gun on the window or on the mirror of my truck thinking that it was a joke. I ended up using it that afternoon. Joke's on you. Troy Phillips, Mr. Burnout. Right on. All right, man. So listen, we're about a minute and a half away from this one. Just enough time for you to get a drink, kick back, relax, and get ready for Shop Talk. Going live in just a minute and a half. Stick around. Rob Nussbaum in the house, our associate producer. Official title, howdy howdy. Professional Monkey, bearing fires are never funny. Ask me how I know. I'm assuming you know because a wheel on your trailer fell off like mine did, and everyone else thinks that's funny when it happens. 1 minute left to go on our countdown here. I think that's kind of close enough. I sort of hear the motors firing up in the background. I think it's time to get this one off or out of the station and up onto the tracks. Let's go live with tonight's episode of Shop Talk. Here we go. Okay, scooter tramps and chopper jockeys all across the land. It's just after 9 p.m. on Sunday. That means it's time for Shop Talk. I'm your host, Chris Cowan with Cycle Source Magazine. Glad to have you guys here in the Dennis Kirk Motorcycle Studio, 50 floors beneath the street level, joined by my ever-faithful crew.
Hey.
So much enthusiasm in the studio tonight, I can't even handle it. One's back to hey, one's back to hell no.
Like, you got me all excited. Like, I'm trying to multitask because I don't want to miss anything. And
He's throwing shit at you left and right.
I know. Dude.
So
He threw me a curve today. I was like, seriously, dude? He's like a little kid. When he gets an idea that I actually give him the thumbs up on, he's like a little kid and he just like, okay, go.
it's so bad. So
Like he just forgets to put the gas in the car.
I think it was on the way home. So Smokeout, for everybody who was at Smokeout, was absolutely epic. Thank you so much for coming. We took 3 days, I think, afterwards, cleaning up and putting things away. On the drive home, so many of you guys had asked us about doing the amateur chop-off again that was such a big part of Smokeout that we started working on it. And, you know, much to my surprise, it fell together pretty easy. So I came up with this graphic today. I came up with this graphic today, and I told Heather, I said, hey, this would be really cool. We can just like put this out there, and you know, we have a plan and everything. So I put it on social media, like right then, right that minute.
And he's like, hey, go like click on the link on the website. There's no page built. There's like he posted this before I even knew it existed. And I'm getting messages like, I can't find the website. How do I sign up for this? I'm like, what the hell?
So in classic Heather fashion, there is the website. So now you can go to Smokeout
We have
Rally.
3 submissions.
Yep. So the way we're planning this, it's a little bit different than amateur chop off, and we're sort of borrowing bits and pieces from a bunch of other events that we know are cool. But what we're going to do is we're going to take 24 submissions. And this will basically be picture you, where you're from, if you have any bikes that you built already.
Do you know who submission number 2 was?
Who?
Professional Monkey.
No way.
Yep.
So cool. So what we're going to do once we get to 24, we're going to put these up on the website and on social media and let the social media audience decide who the next 12 will be. Once we get to those 12, we're going to narrow it down by letting you guys say what your project is, whether it's something you already started on that you can put pictures up or describe your project. And we're going to put that out to the crowd again and let them vote down to the last 6.
You know what I think is cool? Is that it's open to like any style.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be just a chopper. I mean, granted, choppers are king, but
Mrs. Monkey says, congratulations on another amazing Smokeout. We missed you there.
yes, we did.
No more of that. I said to Professional Monkey, that's like me showing up without Heather. I get half points. Maybe less.
But, you know, even though she wasn't there, she still did translate for us so we could get greasing gears on the TV. That was pretty awesome.
Right? Dude, were you standing there for that, Mark?
Yeah.
I thought his head was going to explode.
You mean prior to the meltdown that was saved, that someone saved the day?
Jeremy Valentine says, Mark, are you better now? It's not so hot.
No. It'll take me like 2 weeks to get over that.
Mark
they're already
almost
saying
died.
that. They're saying that horrible word already, Smokeout.
What do you mean horrible word?
It's painful.
What do you mean it's painful?
If I would have had a picture of all of our, that's what I'm going to do next year. Like on Saturday afternoon, I'm going to take a picture of everybody's face, and then the first show, everybody's going to be like, "Oh my god, it was so awesome!"
Smokeout was so great.
I'm going to put up all those pictures of everybody
right.
having meltdowns. It's great.
Like Cheryl, you left unfortunately Sunday morning, but we took a bunch of people out to dinner Sunday night.
Yeah, I saw the.
And
the
Cheryl
post.
posted a picture of me holding the giant
drink.
margarita.
Yeah.
And I look so tired. I'm like, was I actually even awake?
Yeah.
Like, that was so bad.
It's a lot of fun, but boy, it's a freaking job.
It is,
I still
buddy.
can't
It is.
say that I've actually been to a smokeout.
Yeah, really? I did see you walk around once.
Yeah,
I
you
did.
did. You've been to a Smokeout now.
Yeah.
You were at the dirt drags.
I did.
And hey, what wasn't it like for 4 days you were asking people on social media to give you a video of Cher singing the
I
national
still
anthem?
haven't seen it.
It's on our social media.
It's on our social
Yes.
media? Shit.
Sometimes you got to look a little deeper.
Well, I think part of the problem is I have this weird thing. I'll watch videos, but I not with sound on. And if it doesn't catch my attention within the first 3 seconds, I'm like, wah.
Yeah.
Cheryl O'Brien, do you want to see the pictures? I said, no, I can't post that. Nope. All right, man. So listen, this is Shop Talk. If it's your first time tuning in, thank you. Welcome. We do this show every Sunday, 9 p.m. on the East Coast through the courtesy of the Dennis Kirk Motorcycle Studio and many other sponsors who help us get this to the air. But most importantly, you let us into your living room. As long as you do that, we're not going to go away. What is it? If it's your first time, we do 90 to 120 minutes of some talk, some banner, some feature bikes, stuff you would find in a motorcycle magazine, but it's all in video format. We start the whole thing off with a little segment we call the news. The Shop Talk World Report is brought to you by Law Tigers. Get the compensation you deserve and get back on the road with Law Tigers. All right, so first up in the news tonight, and this comes in from Vigor Times, exciting auction alert. Explore the remarkable history behind National Motorcycle Museum collection going under the hammer. It's hard for us to say that this is an exciting thing because it seems like such a loss for the motorcycle industry, but the sale of the John Palmer motorcycle collection, a historically significant auction, went off. To all accounts we've heard so far, it was incredible.
It seems like it was really great for Jill. I know Banks Brothers, the Black Hole Museum, acquired a few pieces of memorabilia. I saw that, and I saw that one of the bikes, and I forget which one it was a Bruff Superior, maybe, went for $220,000.
Yeah.
So I hope and pray that the majority of that went to Miss Jill.
The thing to consider here is that with this auction, it joins the ranks of the original Steve McQueen estate auction in '84, the Otis Chandler estate auction in 2006, and the E.J. Cole collection in 2015.
Ooh, it was a Bruff Superior.
They're saying, that the bikes, there were some in there that were so rare that's what really made this an extraordinary thing.
I hope a lot of people took the opportunity before it closed to go see it, because it was incredible. It really was, and I do hope much of what was in there goes to other museums.
Yeah,
that would be great to see it go to personal people that they close the door after they park it. Would be a shame.
That's kind of a bummer, So I think the two big ones of the day were the Bruff Superior and the 1906 Curtis Twin, which went for $214. That's pretty damn good.
Yeah, that's big money.
Yeah.
That's pretty good, and I hope Jill is happy with the outcome of it.
Yep. So coming in from Dirt Rider, Team USA riders announced for 23 Motorcross of Nations. In the article here on Dirt Rider, it goes to tell you October 6th through the 8th will be Aaron Plessinger, RJ Hampshire, and Christian Craig. But the thing that's interesting is our show tonight surrounds the most famous Motorcross Des Nations team, and when I was reading this report, I see that Roger DeCoster serving as team manager. So we're talking about a 42-year gap.
Yeah, big gap.
But the team has announced that information's up on Dirt Rider. This is so badass,
right? How bad do you want to be as cool as this guy?
And of course he's a Kiwi, right? I mean, this is going to make Kiwi Mike so happy to see.
Never hear the end of that.
So Guinness Book of World Record, world's oldest motorcycle rider, 97 years old, Leslie Harris, and I got to play some of this because it's just too cool. On his BSA. So every other rider on the track deserves a trophy too, because
dude, I'm 58. I had trouble walking down the steps this morning.
I think that's so awesome.
Oh, it's fantastic.
So cool.
Like, just to still be able to throw your leg over a motorcycle at 97.
Absolutely.
That's incredible. What an inspiration.
So one last story. This is coming in from KEVN in the Black Hills, and it seems like this has become a really strong news source for us. But there's talk of street races in Sturgis this year.
This has to happen.
So not sure exactly how this is going to go off, but anybody that lives in Sturgis as part of the local government, tell us what we can do to be part of making this happen.
After the 2022 Sturgis rally, the city of Sturgis started talking about what might bring in a new crowd of people. A month after this year's rally, that vision is taking shape as AMA racing professionals ride the streets to consider routes. The idea is still in its early stages.
The city is taking a hard look at all the logistics and all the safety issues that come with a street race, and so what happens now is the AMA will put together a proposal and they'll submit that to the city, and the council will determine if the city moves forward.
Additional streets will need to be blocked off, and parking options for businesses has become a hot topic.
Some of us will be an island. We have different locations up and down the street, and one of our locations will be in the center of where they're racing around. So we're worried about sales in that area specifically, but then we're also worried about parking and overflow parking for all the people that usually park on Main Street.
The AMA site visit aimed to assess routes, audience angles, safety concerns, and stakeholder opinions. This information will go towards creating a race event proposal for the 2024 rally. Reporting in Sturgis, I'm Kristen Kite.
That would be so awesome.
Yeah. Listen, I mean, it has to happen, right?
You got the...
It has to happen, but professional monkey's comment, you'd have to watch for dumbasses that wander into the streets.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure if they can pull off what they do on the Isle of Man, that
I think they could probably handle it in Sturgis. And you know that girls' concern about parking, the foot traffic alone.
Oh my God, it would be so epic.
Because people park and then they wander all over town. They don't actually stay. But
it would be so epic. Like it would be Sturgis on a whole other level.
Right.
I mean, anyone who's ever been to Mountain Fest in West Virginia, when they had the street races there,
they were super cool.
Oh, it was the coolest thing ever.
And I think and I have to say that whatever day it happens on, we would have to cancel everything on our schedule.
Oh yeah.
Because there's no way I would miss that. I don't care what it is.
Yep.
And they need to do something to promote. They need to bring something new into that.
Yeah, and it's a shame. Like the topic of our show tonight, the interview that went on after the Hall of Fame induction, there was several times that I heard all of the people that were in that interview talk about how, Sturgis is not really the moto crowd and stuff. And when you consider the amount of racing that goes on there, they're flat track racing, the hill climbs that
There's
went on.
every type of racing you could possibly imagine in Sturgis.
But
except street racing.
Something to really, in popular culture and conversation to bring up the fact that tide of racing. I mean, if you consider this was possibly the start of cross country racing, the Jack Pine Gypsies and the Jack Pine Gypsy Run and everything. But it'd just be really cool. It'd be
I keep
a great
threatening
way
that
to,
1 year we're going to take a year off of doing activations so we can just go see all the
good
racing.
luck.
Well, let me rephrase that. I will take a year off from activations and go see all the racing.
It's nice to dream.
Professional Monkey, they need bagger racing at Sturgis. Absolutely right.
Agree.
Yep.
Absolutely right.
Yep. Hey, James. James
So
Patience.
lots of people piling in. We should get right to our guests. We have some interesting fellows on the show tonight. Mr. Keith Terry from the Sturgis Motorcycle Museum and Hall of Fame, and Steve Matthes, who's coming in from PulpMX and RacerX, who did the interview that we're talking about. But rather than me go on about this, let's get them on here and talk firsthand.
Just Hanging Out in the Shop is brought to you by
Why are you laughing at me tonight, Heather?
I'm
USA
laughing
since
at
1966, the best
At
oil
Logic
on
Cycles,
planet
let's
Earth.
start with maybe just taking a day off.
What's up, fellas?
Whoa.
So
What's happening?
Probably one of the coolest things I've seen in Sturgis in quite some time. And Sturgis, I mean, for us, we get to see all ends of it. So to say that is really something. The interview that you pulled off, Steve, was just incredible. It was such a moment in history, and I can't wait until you see the reaction that comes from people from this.
Thanks. Yeah, that was really cool, man. It was an honor to get to do that. I got approached by Chris Malo there, part of the museum, a few months back. And, I think what these guys have done, whether you're a street bike racer, a dirt bike racer, whatever, what they did can't be underestimated. The Americans at that point were nowhere near the Europeans. They were thought to be second-rate riders. And these guys that weren't even the best racers in America at that point pulled off the win at the Olympics of motocross 2 weeks in a row. It was awesome to be there. My first time at Sturgis, I went to the Chip. I went up and down Main Street. I mean, I got to the museum. I was cool, man. It was awesome.
So that's something that was a recurring theme that night too. Whether it was Donnie and Chuck, all the guys were talking about their experience there, and all the things that they saw, and the things that we take for granted year after year going there as a rally, and hearing it from them through their eyes was pretty cool. But you guys actually took them out and gave them some hospitality and everything. You did some riding in the Black Hills, a whole bit.
Yeah, it was great, man. It was really cool to see the museum and read everything that had gone on, and see the recreation of that shop from the early 1900s or whatever that was, and then the bikes and everything else. I mean, look, we're all motorcycle riders, right? Whether it's dirt bikes or street bikes or whatever. So we can all appreciate two-wheeled fun. And I think all those guys had a blast. Like, I mean, I'm friends with those guys. I've known them for a long time. I've interviewed them many times about their different parts of their career, and just, one-on-one, whether we were at the Chip, whether we were hanging out for dinner, they had a blast. They were super appreciative that you guys, the Sturgis community, welcomed them in. The museum, we treated us great. And yeah, it was a real, the wives had a good time. I think we all, as moto guys, were like, yeah, this is cool. We like this.
Right on. Well, and for us too, I mean, for a lot of us, and I got to talk to you guys after the interview and explain to you that, for so many of us, this was our inroad to motorcycling. Motocross and hare scrambles and cross country racing is where we all came into motorcycling, and these guys were heroes forever for us. So to sit there and listen to them tell these stories firsthand was just, it was a whole other level.
Yeah, it was awesome to see that these guys, all the things they've done and they've accomplished, right? And then Chris Malo took us on a trail ride in some beautiful scenery, up and down some mountains, and he got bikes for us. He did a great job of taking care of us, and Chuck and Danny rode. Donnie Hansen and Dave Arnold went to go see Mount Rushmore, and they put us up in Deadwood, which itself was beautiful. I got all these people when I came back. My friends were like, who had been to Sturgis, asked me about it. What'd you think? What'd you do? And I was just like, man, more than anything, it's beautiful up there. The country is beautiful. I feel like I've driven through it, being a mechanic back in the day, but I've never stopped and looked around and gone on a trail ride on an off-road dirt bike. It was simply beautiful. Loved it, man. And everyone was so cool. It was, I got to be honest, I travel a ton, right? I go 45 weekends a year. I'm gone, traveling to these races and going to Europe. I wasn't looking forward to, on my week off, to go to Sturgis. It was kind of like, oh, another trip. And man, I am so glad I got to go. I loved it. It was great. Rob Bidas is trying to get me to go back next year. And I might, man. Maybe I'd like to stay out a little bit later and experience some nightlife at Sturgis Rally. That'd be great.
Boy, I'll tell you what, the funny thing for people who it is their first time, or they don't go every year and they don't realize, Heather and I sometimes will stay for 3-4 weeks after Sturgis. There's as many cool events that happen after the week of the rally. They have a Mustang rally come through. There's a drift rally thing that comes through, and it's
Cool
Deadwood Nights. That alone is worth staying after rally for. The coolest car show you've ever seen times 10. The entire town of Deadwood fills up with cool old cars, and they shut the whole street down for a concert. It's absolutely.
I also think that a lot of people only recognize that is, Harley riders, the bars, the bands and stuff. The dirt bike riding out there is epic.
We've done a bunch.
Oh, yeah. With the Limp Nicky lot, a lot of guys used to bring bikes, and on Wednesday or so, they'd go hit the trails. There's so much more to do. There's so much racing. A lot of people just, they say Sturgis, they think, going into town and partying, going to the Chip, going to Full Throttle. They forget there's so much more to do out there.
Mm-hmm.
So, Steve, let's talk for a minute for everybody who's not hip to what we're talking about when we talk about the most famous Motorcross Des Nations team that ever hit the track. Set the scene a little bit so we can get into that.
Yeah, so the Motorcross Des Nations is basically the Olympics of motocross. It started somewhere in the 50s, I believe, and it was the domain of Europeans. Belgium, England, France, they dominated this race for a long time. It's a series of, now it's your best 3 racers, like you guys were talking earlier about the 2023 team. Back then it was your best 4 racers on 2 different sizes of bikes, 250cc, 500cc, 2 weeks in Europe, Olympics of motocross. Every country sends their best 4, and America had never won it. I think they got 4th one year. Many years they didn't even send a team because it was just, they didn't want to go and get their asses kicked, right? But these guys in 1981, with the help of Honda, with the help of Bel-Ray, they decided to re-enter the Motorcross Des Nations. I think they hadn't gone for 2 years in a row. And as I said off the top, they picked 4 riders who rode Honda because Honda spearheaded this. Cost Honda about $30,000 back in the 80s, which was no small sum. And they picked the 4 Honda riders. And again, they weren't even the best that America had at the time. And they went to a deep sand track, which again is the European specialty. Americans didn't grow up riding the deep sand, right? If there was one track that you would say America has no chance of winning, it would be this deep sand track in Belgium that they went to in 1981. And these 4 kids, old men now, but kids back then, pulled off the amazing. They pulled off the incredible. They won the race. And then to top it all off, the next week was the other size of bike. It was the 500cc the next week in Germany, and they won again. Just a massive upset. Think of 1980 Olympic hockey team. Think anything of a massive upset. To give you an idea, and I mentioned this on the podium when I was inducing them at the Hall of Fame, to give you an idea of how tough it was, the race was held at the same track in 2011, I believe, maybe 12, same track as 1981, and America got their ass kicked in the deep sand. They finished, I think, 8th, something like that. And this had been, with better technology, better preparations, and all of that, and they couldn't even come close to the podium, which to me puts in perspective what Donnie Hansen, Chuck Sun, Johnny O'Mara, Danny Laporte did in 81 when they won it in the deep sand. So it was really cool, a chance to get to talk about these guys in front of, maybe a crowd that doesn't know much about them, kind of put in perspective what these guys did. Again, it was the 1980 gold medal USA hockey team. It was the equivalent of that. No one gave these guys any chance. And, they did it. They went over, they represented America. And that win in 1981, that kicked off a 13-year win streak for America. So they'd never won before. And starting in 1981, they won 13 straight times with all sorts of different riders. They finally lost in 1994. But, that's the kind of effort that these guys did, and they kicked it off. And it's funny, these guys were great riders. Some of them were champions. None of them were all-time champions. But they have the bond of being the 4 to bring it home. And they've done, they're in the AMA Hall of Fame. They're in the Sturgis Hall of Fame. They've been given all these awards, given all these accolades. They're bonded, too. The 4 of them are bonded for life by this achievement way back in 1981. And, just hopefully, your crowd, your listeners, your viewers can get a sense of how iconic these guys are and what they did.
Well, and then from a place of patriotism, I mean, already the chat box is filling up with American sentiment and everything too. But I think the important part to highlight here, and you did it so well in the interview, was the fact that it wasn't just a few people. It was nobody. Yeah. Nobody had faith in this. Nobody. I mean, they were openly referred to as the B team and, B riders, and they were just going for the trip, and it was a complete underdog story.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, the terrain of the track, the deep sand, which was the first race, was not in their favor. The Americans have a few sand races, but nothing what they have in the GPs in France, in Holland, in Belgium. They have the deep bottomless sand that just goes on forever. It's basically like a beach race, right? And so these guys didn't race on that either. So when you include the fact that they they went to a sand track, and the fact that they'd never won this race anyways, and the fact that even at that time in 1981, the Europeans were still considered the superior racers. Supercross in America was just getting started. That technique, I think, eventually helped Americans become the best riders in the world. But at that time, man, no one thought these guys had a chance in hell. And Dave Arnold, the team manager, he's an icon in the industry. Roger DeCoster, who's still there right now, helping Team USA in 2023. These guys were behind the scenes helping everybody out. So it was great.
How about like when you think about a lifetime of accomplishments and an incredible career, like when you think about everything that Roger DeCoster has been involved in a lifetime, it's almost too much for one person.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, right? That's a good way to put it, Chris. Too much for one person. He was a 5-time world champion. Then he moved over to Honda. That's on a Suzuki. Then he moved to Honda, developed their bikes, scouted riders, developed their bikes to the point where they were the best bikes for probably a 10 or 15-year stretch. Then he went to Suzuki, which at the time was down on their luck, behind the scenes at technology. He had some failures. Not everything he touched turned to gold. But you know what he eventually did? He found some guy named Ryan Dungey and Ricky Carmichael. He got Ricky Carmichael to ride for Suzuki, and he was off. And then he went to KTM, a manufacturer that had no presence in American motocross
whatsoever,
and no 4-stroke. When the bike sizes switched over, and what did he do? He brought Dungey over, and he started winning again. And absolutely, Raj is a motorcycle icon. He's a legend in the industry. And he's a good guy to talk to, too. He's a real, he's so funny because he's seen it all. He's done it all. So you would think he could have a big ego or sort of an air about the guy, and he won't. He'll just tell you anything you ask. He doesn't care. He'll just tell you the truth and how it is and what he thinks. So as a media guy in the motorcycle industry, it's great to talk to Raj.
I've been lucky enough because of where I live. I live about 2 minutes from Lojack's Yamaha. And that puts me within less than an hour's drive to Happy Valley of Cernic's track. So I've been to a bunch of the RM Cups and, seen all of that stuff firsthand and got to actually talk to Roger and talk to Travis a bunch of times that he was there. And, I get a real nice insight from growing up around motocross people and people that were really big. I mean, Eddie Lojack just a few years ago inducted into the AMA Hall of Fame for his incredible career, and I've been super lucky to be around guys like that. So you sort of take it for granted until you see it through other people's eyes. Other people are just like, oh my God.
Yeah, really, right. Well, I think I was a little bit like that for me at the Hall of Fame. Again, I'm a moto guy, right? I love motocross. I have a passing interest in road racing and a passing interest in all things two-wheel. But really, I'm a motocross guy. But getting to go to Sturgis, getting the Hall of Fame tour, looking at the plaques, and then seeing all the people that were at the induction ceremony and kind of seeing like all the things that were going on and the great people that designed bikes, painted bikes, covered these motorcycles. For me, I was a little bit like, oh, yeah, man, like this is another part of the industry that, is super cool. And these people are all passionate, just like I am. It's street and not dirt, but yeah, it's cool to rub elbows with some of those guys. And some of the people I met, like, were really, really awesome. And they were icons in your world, Chris. And it was neat to have a little bit of crossover for that. I mean, again, I'm around these guys all the time, like DeCoster and Johnny O'Mara and Chuck Sun. And, like I kind of eventually I was a fan before I got started as a journalist. And yeah, I kind of take it for granted, but it was really neat to see that, wow, these guys are pretty cool. And all the things they've done is pretty legendary.
Oh, and by the end of your interview with these guys, I hurried up and got in there and got pictures and everything, because growing up we had pictures of, Chuck Sun. Like if you got a signed poster from Chuck Sun or, any of these guys in your bedroom, you were a neighborhood badass.
And you have to think almost every person that was in that Hall of Fame room started out on a dirt bike. Started out, so the world crosses over. And they always have a love for, almost every shop you go in, there's a dirt bike somewhere in there.
So another gentleman we have on the show tonight is Mr. Keith Terry, and I suspect that the larger part of the driving force behind this whole happening was your fault.
I had a little bit to do with it.
Well, I remember talking to you way early on at the beginning of the year, and you were you were discussing this, and the excitement that you had for it was contagious right off the bat.
Well, the 81 Des Nations team, like Steve said, it was the Miracle on Ice kind of an episode, and it was an impossible feat. They went up against the best Europeans that had just been dominant, so dominant, like Steve said, and they went over there without a chance to win. And when they pulled it off, now one of the Europeans did win the race, but right in behind them was all the Americans, and all of them together with their points, the way they did it, ended up winning the Trophy Des Nations, which was the 250 race in Belgium. And then they come right back and win the 500 in Germany a week later. It showed that, like all sports, it's just a matter of time, and here come the Americans. Yeah. And that's what's happened now. 23 times after that 81, they have won the Des Nations.
That's
it
incredible.
Used to be two races. It used to be two races, and now it's just one. They melted it together, and it's the Moto Des Nations for the 500 and the Trophy Des Nations on the 250, and now it's together. But the Americans, with those four riders, they just with them not having a chance and then pulling it off, they didn't give up. They let it all out on the track, and that's just a great story, just the best.
So Keith, do me a favor and take us through the process, because there's a whole board that sits down to actually consider nominations and do the work of who's actually going to be inducted from year to year. Tell me how this starts with the talk of having this team inducted in the Sturgis Hall.
Well, typically, what the museum tries to do is not just recognize any one particular segment of the industry. The motorcycle industry is made up by many segments, and the custom. It would be easy to, like in the world you live in, the custom bikes or the choppers or the artwork or the parts distributors, but the racing crowd are the people that take motorcycles, just blister them to death, beat them up, and try to see what breaks. Take the technology, and that technology shows up in all of our motorcycles, all the touring bikes. They found out what breaks and what doesn't, and why it does. And so we wanted, what would be better on the racing crowd than show the 81 Des Nations team to all the people that came to Sturgis and came to watch induction of Hall of Famers with Dave Arnold, Roger DeCoster, Johnny the Osho O'Mara, Chuck Sun, Danny Laporte, Donnie Hansen. These guys had a dream. They had a dream, and they knew that they weren't the best, but they were going to give it all they had, and they represented the United States, and that deserves being recognized. And that's what we did at the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely. It was a proud thing for us to see that go down, and to see their appreciation for it and their appreciation of being introduced to a lot of our culture. It was great. Definitely bridging two worlds there, my man. Good on you.
You were like a little kid when you interviewed that. Like when you were doing that interview.
Yeah.
I gotta get my picture.
Absolutely.
You were so excited.
Dude, those guys, you don't understand. When we were kids,
they were
riding a motocross bike, like you see these guys fly through the air today. Those motorcycles are not like what we grew up with. Like you had to be a man of like 6 feet, smoke a cigar, eat red meat, because you were going to get your ass beat riding those motorcycles.
I wasn't exposed to any of that growing up. I mean, we had the New England famous Pepperell motocross track like a quarter of a mile from my house, but it closed down shortly after we moved there. I mean, still 30 some odd years later, people still talk about that track. But that was the extent of my motorcycle exposure.
Dude, out of Bataka 250, that thing weighed 300 pounds more than I did.
Well, the bike that I have, and I still have, is I have my Mako.
Yeah.
So many riders cut their teeth on a Mako.
Yep.
That got them out in front, and the next thing you know, they're riding for Honda. Honda had their practice track about a mile away from my house. And Johnny O'Mara and Jeff Stanton both lived in Simi Valley.
Oh.
And so I got to see them all the time and go to the track and watch them practice and go to Indian Dunes, which Chuck's son said, listen to him talk about racing in Southern California.
Yeah.
And it was just, I got to see all that. I went to the first Supercross race at the Los Angeles Coliseum.
Wow. Where
they're going to race next weekend. In 1972, I believe it was. And 73 Honda came out with the Elsinore, and from there on it was history. Honda did such a great job with all of their riders. And what a treat it was for them guys to went to the Buffalo Chip. We watched an 80s band play there, and with the Des Nations winners, it was just rocking. I don't know if it could get better than that. It was so much fun for an old guy,
Steve, what was your bike growing up?
My first bike was like an 82 RM80, I think, somewhere around there. So a little more modern than the Baltaco. But I started in probably 1983-ish, started riding around then, and eventually became professional. But then I realized no talent, and what was the next best thing to do? That's what a lot of us are in the industry, right? We don't have the talent to race, so we got to figure something out. Then I became a mechanic, and I was a mechanic for about 12 years for various race teams, in Supercross and Motocross. And then I hung up my wrenches to become like a journalist. I got into podcasting early and found a niche podcasting. But it was interesting that, back in the 80s when those guys, I had pictures of on my wall of all these guys I see every weekend. Brock Glover works for Dunlop. He's there all the time. Like I said, I've talked to Donnie. Johnny's at the races working with the up-and-coming stars right now. I see Johnny O all the time. Talk to Roger. So all these guys that I had posters on my wall of, now I consider them friends. I talked to Ron Lachine on the phone the other day for like 30 minutes. So really fortunate to be able to do what I do and get to know these guys that, back then, for the listeners and the viewers, traveling to Europe, which is what these guys did. Brad Lackey went in the early 70s and chased the dream. Danny Laporte, because of the Motorcross Des Nations, got a factory ride in Europe as well. And back then, there's no internet, there's no cell phones. It's communist countries, and you're trying to drive around, trying to find your way to these races. These American guys did not have it easy. I don't want to be the guy that walked uphill to school both ways, but these guys in the 80s, they were animals, and they had it a lot rougher. Salaries weren't as big and all of that. So I don't know. Again, I don't want to be the old guy yelling at clouds, but man, these guys in the 80s, they were truly different breed. They were truly different heroes, and super talented on a motorcycle as well.
I remember when I was a kid, and Eddie Lojack at the time was just starting to go to Europe to race, and he was doing the ISDAEs and shit like that. And I remember him coming back and telling us all, about races that he was in, that they literally gave them bibs that had a picture of the rider on them. Because when they would get to the checkpoint, the races were so brutal, they had to have a facial comparison just to prove that they were the same rider on the bike.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
That's crazy.
Yep. Yeah.
That's crazy.
But like, you know,
Keith had some great stories about knowing these guys. Keith, your stories about hanging out with Jeff Stanton and Johnny O and, you know, Honda Land and all that in Simi Valley. Those are really cool stories. And again, I'm Canadian, so I didn't get it. You know, I grew up in the snow until I came down to America. But to Keith, you sounded like you were right in the heart of all this. So it's really, really lucky era for you.
You know, living in Simi Valley, on the practice track, being there, all the guys, everybody showed up. I had a basketball court in my backyard, so all the guys would come over and we'd play basketball. And all I would do, because I was the old guy I got to pick, I would pick Jeff Stanton, and that's all you needed for him to play. It was so much fun just being around those guys, to listen to their stories, and what a treat, what a time it was.
Right on. Well, so
Chris, sorry. Well, let me ask you, like, you know, this is the first kind of motocross people that were induced there into the Sturgis Hall of Fame, and I felt like the reception was good for all the reasons we're talking about. You know, Travis Pastrana's been there and has certainly done a lot on a bike. Kerry Hart has been to Sturgis a lot. Ricky Carmichael. Do you foresee maybe, and this is more of a question for Keith, I guess, but do you see Sturgis maybe embracing some more motocross people based on how this went and the reception and everything else?
Well, I think that this was just breaking. It was the icebreaker. We had to. We recognized their accomplishments, but the racing crowd in general, we need to continue to show them that is a huge segment. And the motocross guys, like all those guys, had never been to Sturgis.
Yeah.
So they got to see it a couple of days. You were there a couple of days before the induction ceremony. We went around and did everything we could, and they just had a blast. I don't think they realized what all went on in Sturgis. The culture, Sturgis for the month of August. If you're a motorcycle person, that is your home. And you could come and enjoy the Black Hills, which they got a chance to go out and ride the back roads like you did and with them. And I think they really saw the Black Hills in a different way. And I think all of us saw them in a different way. And I think we're going to continue to bring motocross people to the Hall of Fame. We have more. We're talking about how to expand and how to show more and more of all the stuff that the motocross people do. Like you said, these are the guys, the toughest guys in the world, because they crash, they have to get back up and continue on. We need to do more for them, and we're going to do that.
Well, and hey, listen, I totally agree. Like any outstanding achievement on two wheels I would assume has a place in the Sturgis Museum and Hall of Fame. But when you talk about guys, like someone that comes to my mind right away is Jeff Ward. One of the viewers put up his name a little while ago about something. But you think about a cat like that. You know, here's a guy whose career spanned all the way back to ABC Wide World of Sports Superbikers, the whole way up to when Supermoto first went and turned into a big thing and became pro. There was Ward again racing. You know what I mean?
And not to cut any of the new guys short. Somebody had asked earlier, what you think of Hart and people like that. Not to cut them short. Those old guys had no suspension. Oh. I mean, it was minimal. They were riding blocks with motors on them. Not that these new guys, and again, not taking anything away from them. They're amazing. The trickery, everything that they do now. Those guys, like you said before, those guys before were badasses, man. They wrecked because they had no suspension. They got up, they bent shit back in place, and they went again. So,
and even the guys that started with, the first, whatever you want to call it, the FMX or, the trick riders and stuff that some are talking about late 90s and, even the stuff that they went through in the beginning, like those bikes weren't made for that.
No.
We're close to, we live right out the road from Mad Mike Jones. You see Mike walk around, man.
Oh, yeah.
Mike's body took abuse, like he really did. Like the pioneers of that stuff they were tough as nails too.
Yeah, you want to talk about Jeff Ward? The guy was, when he was a kid, he was on In Any Sunday. He's in the movie On Any Sunday.
Yeah.
Then he starts winning in 1982. He doesn't stop winning until 1992, and he wins, I think, 7 championships. He's also 7-0. Talking about the Motorcross Des Nations, he's 7-0 at that race. He's never lost a Motocross or Trophy Des Nations. Then he finished second at the Indy 500 in a car. Then he did a supermoto, Chris, like you said. Now he races mountain bikes, and he bicycles 300 miles a week.
He's a robot. He's a robot. Dude. Seriously.
Yeah, the guy's next level. He's absolutely insane. He'd be a very worthy recipient of any Hall of Fame in the world what has to do with racing. Absolutely.
Well, all of those guys, Brock Glover you mentioned, Mickey Diamond, and Jeff Ward, all those guys that were racing, they were the ones that set the standard. You know, Bud Eakins.
Bud Eakins. There's a whole
years before guys like Bud Eakins, but they were more desert and racing and enduro racing. But they're the ones that set the standards, and all the rest of the riders came in behind them. And Jeff Ward being one of them. He's been to Sturgis, and so is Mickey Diamond and Brock. I talked to him, and he said that he wants to come here. Maybe we'll give him a reason to show up.
Yeah.
You know, I was talking to Bitos today, and he actually suggested almost like a Sturgis apprenticeship program for guys from the moto world of, getting crews of them to come in and experience what's going on there, and just to have them experience the fabric of it, as you're leading in for nominations and people from that part of the world to come over.
Yeah, the first text I got, I posted a photo of my view from my hotel room in Deadwood, said Sturgis. First text I got was Ricky Carmichael. How is it? It's great, isn't it? It's awesome. Like he's all aboard. He loved it. I was like, dude, I just got here. I don't know. I just got here, but he was already like very stoked that I got the chance to go. And then then we chatted afterwards, and he loves it. Yeah, he's somebody that went there for Triumph, right? Did a street bike ride up there and a road ride, and absolutely loves it.
I think it's interesting how many people in the custom motorcycle world and people in the Hall of Fame actually started on dirt bikes and mini bikes and transitioned over. And then to hear how many people that are on dirt bikes, like professionally, never really quite made that transition to street bikes. And
it's crazy because Sturgis is the week off.
Yeah. Right.
Like nobody in the motor world has anything to do the week of Sturgis. They all need to come.
And see what their influence was, especially the older guys.
And that's exactly it, Mark. To see how they inspired so many people to get on two wheels, because, like Chris said, Wide World of Sports, like that's what you watched, and that's what you wanted to do.
Talk about bringing something back. There's an idea. Who could bring back super bikers?
Yeah,
that was sick when we were kids, man.
And even like I remember, Chris, a few years ago we did that flat track fight club, and it was the old guard versus the
coolest
new guard
thing I've ever seen in motorcycles.
On the Bull Tacos.
Yep.
Like you were in your glory, and those guys that were running that day, the old guard, like those were your heroes coming up.
They still are.
Yeah, absolutely.
They still are. Jay Springsteen. Jay Springsteen. There'll never be somebody for me as tough in motorcycling as Jay Springsteen.
Badass.
Yep.
To watch the flat track, watch the mile, and you're watching them change lead 5 times in one lap.
Yeah.
And that's racing. And same with motocross. And, I just think that little by little, we're going to bring more to Sturgis, like the street racing and, the flat track and drag, all the drag racing. I think it's little by little, we're going to bring it to Sturgis and just make it more exciting than what it is already.
Dude, I'd like to have seen some of them guys at the Smokeout doing the dirt drags. Just see them getting into it, watching that dirt fly.
I see flat track in our future.
Oh yeah.
Hillbilly hot shoe coming at you.
Yep.
So, Steve, this all leads up to the fact that, not taking anything away from the Hall of Fame induction ceremony, it was beautiful. It was absolutely an honor to be there and be part of it all. But that night, the interview that went on for your podcast and the video ride along with it is getting ready to come out. And that's what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about your show, the fact that this thing is coming out, and people will get an opportunity to hear these gentlemen talk at length about this.
Yeah, looking forward to putting that out on PulpMX YouTube, RacerX YouTube. We're going to do a little story about it as well. And yeah, I mean, shout out to Honda, by the way. Brandon Wilson at Honda sent over a factory Honda 500 from 1982 that we had in the background. That thing, for me, that's what I drool over. It's a very, very rare bike. We did it in the museum, set up a table, set up some mics, and basically what I wanted to do was kind of get those guys talking with each other, right? I wanted to give the impression that we're all sitting around having a beer, talking about 1981 Motorcross Des Nations. I didn't necessarily 100% succeed because some of those guys, I don't know, I feel like, there's the shot there. I feel like those guys have told us a bunch of things over the years, but I wanted to really have them go down memory lane and talk about it. And we did it. We squeezed in Dave Arnold as well. And I thought it went really well. And I tried to bring some things that those guys hadn't talked about, right? Like, again, I've interviewed these guys before about this race a few times. Everyone has in the moto world. And so I sat down, I talked to Davey Coombs, I talked to some people, and I was like, hey, what about this? Or what did they do about this? Or what did they do about that? And I got some great ideas of things to bring up. And I think the show went really well. I'm looking forward to for people to see it and get a taste of whether, these guys and what it was like back then. We put up some photos that Davey Coombs from RacerX sent me from that time. And yeah, hopefully it went well, man. I enjoyed it. I really thought those guys bought into it, and I enjoyed it.
No, listen, for just sitting behind the camera, like I was on pins and needles just watching the interview go on. Like you killed it with that. But I have to tell you, my favorite part of the whole deal was listening to Donnie Hansen's wife yell at him for drinking a beer because it was on video.
Yeah, really, right? She was like, hey, can you hide the beer? Can you do that? And I remember, like, Laporte looked over like, what? Why do you want to hide the beer? Like, what? Yeah, that was great. That was fantastic, those guys. And, we were at the Chip the night before, like Keith said, watching those concerts, and those guys were letting their hair down a little bit, and I think they were really enjoying it. So it was cool. Like, I felt like all of those guys really soaked in the ambiance of Sturgis, and everyone at the museum took care of them really nicely. I thought they were, look, these guys, it's a long time ago, right? People forget, but I think that they really were stoked to have, people just kind of remember how great they were and talk about how great they were. So the mood was light. Like, I thought the mood was really good, and those guys were cracking jokes, and they're all great interviews, of course. So yeah, it was great.
Well, and I'll tell you what, man, like I told you that I spoke with Bitos about you, and he was singing the songs of praise about your show. Actually crossed the 500 threshold a while ago now, 557 it looks like the episode number you're up on. But I'm putting a link up for everybody to check you out on the Apple Podcast. They can get you through YouTube as well. Definitely want to see this. One of the better interviewers in this segment. You definitely want to spend some time with Steve, and I really, really appreciate you letting us be part of all that.
No worries. Thanks for having me. Thanks for the great time up there. Congratulations, Chris, to you too for getting in. I thought your speech was awesome. It was like I'm not one of those. I don't cry, but it was emotional, man. You got into it, so. Congrats to you. And yeah, like I said, I got into podcasting in 2008 because there was no podcast about motocross that were out there. I bought a book about podcasting. I set it up. I had about $40 in equipment, and I started podcasting. And in 2023, still doing it and awesome. Having a lot of fun. Yeah, having a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, I think it's cool that we can take, to be more of a Harley group kind of deal, but to bring somebody like you on here with your podcast, how cool everything is.
Yeah.
That intermix between the two, it's super personal. We've been there. Just to let you know, I'm going to have to go home tonight, put my knee brace and my back brace on. We talked about dirt bikes so much. My stuff already hurts, but it's like super cool to be able to, those barriers, they're not far from each other.
Like we said, so many of of our segment started in his segment.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where that bug bit them. So I love that we're meshing the two, and I think it needs to happen a little more often just to remind people where everybody came from.
And even to watch people like Bill Dodge and so many other builders influence the
Bill
dirt
putting
bike
husky forks on his custom bikes and shit
Johnny
like that.
99 and people like that. They're really bringing that dirt bike feel back. Bill's been doing it for years, but you know,
well,
super
I think
cool.
we should have Steve
and
some and
definitely.
his crew on more often.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Let's get Bitus. Let's get Bitus in here.
We have Bitos on. He's great.
Oh, you've had Bitus?
Oh, we haven't quite. We do a lot with Rob. You just got to be careful of Rob.
He's a
because
card,
before you know it, you're agreeing to do something that you don't actually want to do.
Yes, I was sucked into his pit bike races.
Yeah. You gotta watch.
I was supposed to ask you about the pit bike races and the level of inebriation. Was it Chicagoland or?
We were there.
Yeah. Chicago was this past weekend. Charlotte was last weekend. Rob is he's awesome. He's the best live announcer we have in our sport.
Absolutely,
he's phenomenal. And
he can sell ice to an Eskimo though, dude.
Yeah, he's a handful.
You know what's funny?
Yes, and that's the thing. You'll pick the phone up, and before you know it, you're officiating his pit bike race.
Yeah, right.
Oh yeah.
You know what's funny? I met Rob forever ago when we were young men, and he was a salesman at a Harley dealer about an hour away from my house. And the more he got, it was just when he was starting to get into parts and everything else, man. And like the more he got into it, and the more he found his groove. You're right. There is nobody like him. Like he can remember stats off the top of his head, people's names. He'll meet somebody one time, he knows their whole history. He's incredible for that.
Now I adore Rob Bitos. He is one of my favorite people. But when Chris's phone rings and I see it's him, I'm like, hey,
you don't have time for Rob today.
I'm like, nope, our schedule is full. Just say no right now, or don't take. And
just
the call.
so you know, he's watching tonight too because he knew you were going to be on. So he'll be tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll get a phone call.
Like, hey.
He's a legend. He's a legend. And like I said, I enjoyed my time with Rob, and he was very excited that I was going to Sturgis. I probably told him, like, I got to go to Sturgis. Again, like I was saying off the top, I don't really want to get on airplanes unless I have to these days. Right. And I was telling him I got to go to Sturgis. He's told me I'll love it. And then when I told him afterwards how cool it was, he's like, I told you. So, yeah, we're going back.
So, Keith, if you were wondering, how your efforts were received by people out in the motorcycle world, you go back and tell the rest of the board at the museum and Hall of Fame that this was absolutely killer for us. Yeah. You built a bridge between two worlds that's been missing for a long time, and we all appreciate it.
Well, we have our meetings all the time, and we appreciate what you guys do, Steve. But your show is really getting the word out there, and we're going to try to do the best we can, and more on off-road stuff because that's such a huge segment. And I'll tell everybody that we had fun talking about motorcycles and bikes. It's just a blast.
Absolutely, man. Well, listen, fellas, both of you, thank you so much for being on Shop Talk. I look forward to the next time we get to have you back on and talk some more.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yep. All right. Thanks. Let's do this again. Thanks, guys.
All right, man. Hey, listen, you're watching Shop Talk. We're going into the second part of the show. We're going to take a break real quick and check out a cool feature bike. When we come back on the other side, there's more. Don't go anywhere. We're in the Dennis Kirk Motorcycle Studio with Shop Talk.
Out of Focus is brought to you by Garage Build. Submit your build, share your passion. Powered by Dennis Kirk.
I'm Jake Farster. I'm from Ohio. My 94 FXLR. My dad bought this when I was a little kid. He got me into motorcycles. I was brought up riding dirt bikes out back, and always had a blast doing it. He gave this to me when I was a little kid. It was all blown up, broken, and went through it and made it my own. Just the normal upgrades. It's got the swing arm bushings in it, the Baird Uncle Paul, and then the front end's all, upgraded. Preload adjusters, all that. And then the motor work, this is a It's an old chopper motor I got. It was wrecked. It was polished. I felt bad painting it black, but it was all beat up so bad and it wouldn't look right in here, so I spray painted it black and it's been running good. Got a good deal on it. This is just Alpine. It's a floating stereo, they call it. It's a single DIN, but then the radio actually bolts on and you can move it in different positions. So one of the things I liked about this was being able to ride with the radio and GPS, easily to see. That was pretty good. The garage I own. So my dad worked out there. We did side work on cars for 10, 15 years. He started out, and then when I got old enough, I started doing it. My buddies would be out there. We'd be changing tires on our cars and motorcycles from doing burnouts all weekend long, But yeah, I grew up out there messing around with anything. And then when I started working on this, FXR, you're always working on it. It never ends. And I'm glad that I got to be raised around all that. It's a lot of fun. Because there's nothing to do where I'm from, so keeps me busy. Hi, I'm Jake Farstead. I'm from Clyde, Ohio, and I'm a Dennis Kirk garage builder.
The only thing standing between you and the open road is some garage time with the right parts and accessories to make your motorcycle roar. And that's why riders everywhere choose DennisKirk.com, the one stop you need to get your Harley back on the road. Our knowledgeable tech staff will help you navigate our more than 185,000 parts, apparel, and accessories that are ready to ship today, with free shipping on all orders over $89. So tune up your ride and get ready for the next adventure. Ride more, wait less. Dennis Kirk.
Hey, it's Billy from Twisted Tea. We're live in Sturgis and you're watching ShopTalk.
Everything we do at the track shapes what we build for the street and the dirt.
You can see how bad these guys want it. A race to the line.
For us, racing is not for the trophies or the glory. We compete because it makes everything we do faster, more durable, and tested to a higher standard. For S&S, racing is the ultimate in proven performance, and we've been proving it since 1958.
Okay, welcome back to the Dennis Kirk Motorcycle Studio. You are watching Shop Talk. Lucky, lucky people. What a killer show tonight. Right. If you missed that thing that went on at the Hall of Fame, good news is you can see the Hall of Fame induction ceremony in its entirety through the Cycle Source Magazine YouTube page in just a few days. Maybe let's give it a week. Let's say a week. It'll be ready, and we'll actually do it as a premiere, so you'll get to see the whole thing, including my shaky little speech where I stood in front of a room full of heroes like a 12-year-old child and fought off tears. Ridiculous.
I want to know what everyone's favorite thing at Smokeout was.
At Smokeout? That's what we should do for some time here. We should just hang out with you guys. Yeah. Let's talk to everybody. Let's let everybody talk to Mark. There's Mark.
Can you do me a favor though, real quick? Can you bring up the Smokeout website?
I can.
Bring it up.
For what purpose?
I want you to scroll down to almost the bottom.
Okay.
Oh boy.
You dirty bastard.
Oh boy.
Oh my God. Gates open in 353 days, 11 hours, 55 minutes, and 14 seconds.
Right?
It's that guy.
Oh.
How awesome is that? But the garage build off site is there. You can put your submissions in to be one of those. But I just wanted you to see how many days we had left to get our shit together.
So garage build off, again, to reiterate.
So we're starting with 354 days to come up with an excuse. Is that what you said?
You better shut up.
Hey. All right, let's see. So dirt drags. Oh, dirt drags.
What's dirt drags?
That's what people's favorite thing was.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, the entire thing.
There's no question. Radar, you look great, Chris. Your speech was from the heart, and it was heartfelt.
What does he? He doesn't have any money, Radar. Back off.
What are you sucking up for?
You guys are brutal, man.
Chris holding the flag. I missed that.
Oh, see? And I told you,
while Cher was singing.
It was on our social media. Look, I'm gonna prove it to you right now.
Yeah, show me, because I totally missed it.
Wait. This is there it is, right?
Oh, I didn't look. Is it the sideways one? That's why I didn't look at it, because it was sideways. I'm like, who the hell posted a sideways video?
I think that's it.
Yep. I'm a superstitious guy, and there's no way we can start an event
It's only sideways for a minute.
Yes, yeah.
So as they give us the okay, we're gonna get this old bitch going.
Watch, we'll get flagged from YouTube for playing the national anthem.
But it's our own singer. Like,
Hey,
I'll tell you,
I just want to
Sharon.
say one thing for everybody here. How about this man right here, Jack Shit?
Who
I'd
gave
like to
Brian the
interject here a
mic?
little bit. On behalf of myself, Chris, Doug, Big Rick.
Oh, Mrs. and Mrs.
My
Thumper
brothers.
say hands down
My
best
girl.
event they've been
I didn't
to.
even
This is
to say that.
This is a big deal here for me. This culture that we are involved in, all of us are here for the same reason.
This is my brother Brian.
It's got to keep going. We have two
Speaking
little
it.
boys that put some bikes in the show, 17 and 20 years old. If you get a chance to see these little guys running around on their bikes, built them in the garage. This is what we need, guys. We got to keep this going for the guys that inspired us to do this. Okay?
One of my brothers from the Hamsters.
This
He's such a
dirt
good
racing that you're
man.
seeing here, don't know where everybody's from. I think right now we're all as one here. We're all here to have fun. But for us guys, I'm from Ohio. Doug's from Ohio. Rick's from Ohio. Chris is from PA. This is what we did when we got together as kids. When you went to a motorcycle deal in town by us, back roads, country roads, whatever, clubs, organizations, whatever. You went out in the woods, you went on a dirt road, you maybe went into a field, you partied, you had fun, you got loose. You dirt dragged, that's what you did. Shit happened, you fell down. You laughed, you got up, you did it again. That's kind of what we don't want you falling down, but we want you to have fun, we want you to laugh. But being that there's a lot of us here, maybe some of us that haven't done this, we got to be a little respectful too here, man. So we got guys that are sitting down here, all you people that are at the finish line. Hey, we got some fast shit here this year. We're not going to tell these guys they can't
Dude, the
race.
guy
We're
on
here to
the-
have fun. We're here
what
to
was
have
it,
a
a
little
Banshee?
chaos.
Banshee, yeah.
We got a boy here that's got a piece of machinery here that about where this gentleman's
That Banshee
standing,
was sick.
the conditions are right on this dirt. That fucking thing's going to do about 90, 100 miles an hour. Okay? He wants to cut this thing loose. So you guys got to be respectful of that. Everybody's got to be respectful of that. It's not about one here right now, it's about all of us. So let's respect that, let's have fun. We're trying to not put rules on this. We're trying to let these guys have fun and cut loose. And before I give this back to Jack, I said it when the mini bike races were going on. We got a gentleman right up here in my club with the bald head. My man took time off from work, came down here from Ohio. If you guys were here last year, we kind of threw something together on this pad right here. We put dirt right here on this pad, and we raced it there. And we had to cut it loose because we had shit going on down there. We had a blast. My boy and another one of our guys, Pipes, and some of you said thank you to him, and I will send that to him. They took time off of their jobs. Pipes runs the company. Rick's a hard worker. Those guys got in their truck, got some equipment, came down.
Yeah, buddy.
and cut
We
this
can't say
loose for
thank you
guys.
enough to both of
So
them.
we had a good track so that we can have stuff like that. And we can have guys like this come out here and play. So let's give a round of applause to Rick. He's sitting right there in the chair. We've already thanked our boy Pipes. We're going to make sure we send it to him. And come on, man, let's get with it. All right? And we're going to have
Brian
a national
was such a
anthem
good
set.
public
Jack will tell you about that for sure.
Right, he was.
Did you see somebody, Tiger Ward over here said his favorite part about Smokeout was meeting me?
Yeah.
She doesn't have any money either, just to let you know.
Right?
I hope I wasn't a
Ready to rock and
bitch.
roll, baby? Before we do anything else,
See, you're going to get to see it finally.
I'm going to cry.
You got a drink in your hand, raise it up. If not for our husbands and wives, our brothers and sisters, our friends, our neighbors that gave up everything to serve this nation, to try to bring freedom to a bunch of fucking scumbags that try to blow them up for doing it, I say, God bless the American warrior. And I want to make sure that we're done with all this shit. And next year, they are here riding, drinking, racing, looking at titties, and making a smokeout. And that's what this is about. So drink them up, raise them up, bring them home. God bless America. This is our gift to you tonight to kick this off. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Cher. Cher is an Air Force veteran, and this is your Star-Spangled Banner. And your flag, there's our flag right there.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous night, o'er the ramparts we watched, were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare.
I thought it was nice of Mark to hold his hand over my heart.
I'm a giver. It's a curse.
He was actually grabbing my boob.
That our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Okay, that was absolutely phenomenal.
And just
Pretty
think
cool,
that,
huh?
that poor girl has to deal with Jeff Forney.
Oh my God. Why do I have an echo?
Yeah, what are you doing? What are you doing to me?
I got nothing. I didn't touch anything.
You got a little echo action going on.
Echo. What did you do?
No, you're killing me,
You broke.
Blondie.
You broke something small.
You're killing
I
me.
didn't touch anything.
You're killing me.
Didn't touch anything, but the echo went away here.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty awesome.
Ghost in the
That was-
studio tonight, by the
That
way.
was incredible. I hope Cher will agree to do that every year for us. Like, I got a little teary-eyed here. She's incredible. She's such a badass anyway.
She is. Yeah.
Oh my God.
They're definitely two of my favorite people, her and Jeff.
Oh, incredible.
Well,
Yeah, I think we're getting shadow banned, Monkey. I really
What?
do. He says 35 watching, 22 likes. Fix it.
Yeah, I think it's on that particular YouTube.
Yeah. Anyway, but no, it's incredible. Like, I love Smokeout. I still can't say I've seen it all.
I'm going to say probably my favorite part of the Smokeout was how everybody comes together. Jeff, Doug, and Brian, for Christ's sake,
Oh my
what
God.
they did. Paul, that's my new best friend. Paul.
Oh my
Paul
God.
Becklin?
Paul Becklin.
Yeah.
Oh,
Paul
hero.
Becklin is a
Yeah,
smokeout
dude.
god.
Yeah, he is hands down just such a great guy. Fell in place, just worked his ass off.
Yes.
He stayed
Yep.
with me and Randy setting up the cycle showcase till 5:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
You know, and then he had the great escape the next day. He
You
was
know-
going to put some laundry in the dryer, and
Yep.
5 hours he fell asleep. It was awesome.
You know, and I'm not going to lie, like, and Paul and Tammy, I know they watch this. When Paul said he wanted to come and help, Chris and I were scared. We're
Yeah.
scared.
Yeah, we're like,
We're a little scared.
Okay.
Dude,
You know,
he's
But
awesome.
He fell right into
Oh my
our little
God.
moto family, and
Yeah.
Laura,
Right
Laura,
on.
Laura, we miss you.
She said she'll be there next year.
Yay. But Paul fell right into our little moto family,
Oh,
and
man,
he got
most
dirty
definitely.
and exhausted. Like that first day, I knew he was one of us when he reached into that drain and cleaned it out.
Oh, my
And I
God.
immediately sent Tammy a message. I'm like, hey, if he comes home with the crowd, it's his own damn fault. We had nothing to do with it.
Dude, the whole back at the house with the first that second night there with him and Brian and Doug got his ass beat by the shower.
Dude.
Those guys they make, and I gotta say, that's like everybody around, mailman, everybody in that group for some reason, Randy, no matter how deep and how crappy it gets, we all just laugh at each other. You know what I mean? It's like you get mad and then you turn around 2 seconds later, you're over it, you're doing something. It's a great group to work with. I can tell you that if you show up early to see what goes on, you'll be impressed.
Right.
So,
and that that's the thing. Like Jason Holman said, one of my favorite comments about the whole deal. After it was all over, he said, it was like one of us finally grew up and threw an event for us. And I was like, yeah, dude, that's exactly it.
Yeah. The only thing I got to say is I had 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 separate people come up to me and ask me what you do to let your wife throw you a party for all your friends.
what did you tell that there's like 90 others involved there too?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. They're like, so how is it that you let Chris throw this party for all his friends? I'm like, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, listen, we have the best friends on planet Earth, and
We do.
proof of it is in the chat box right now. While we're sitting here talking about this show, they're threatening people that everybody better hit the like and share button, or they're coming to find them.
Right. So hey, like I've already got people, just so you know, trying to book RV spots for next year.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like, hang on, time out, y'all.
Take a breath.
Vendors are wanting to book for
That's
next year.
awesome.
RV spots
Awesome.
are wanting to book for next year.
That means we need to spend next week getting all that shit ready and letting them loose. You know,
good
it's
Lord.
it's an absolute honor for us to do all of this. I can't thank you guys enough
What are we
for.
going to do different? What are we going to bring next year?
I
I'm
know-
thinking flat track. I think hillbilly hot shoe flat track.
And I also think this build-off thing's going to be super cool.
Oh yeah.
You know, I think bringing the build-off thing back to the
Yes.
Smokeout, where it all came from in the beginning, is going to be
Because
pretty
if you
badass.
guys don't know, like that's one of Smokeout's claim to fame. That is the first place on planet Earth that a
So
biker
how do
build-off
we
ever
narrow it
happened.
down to 24? Because I assume we're going to have way more than 24.
Well, we're gonna
submissions.
start with 24, and I don't know if it's just gonna be the first 24 or
no.
I don't know. You know,
Can
I
we
mean,
like throw them in a hat or something?
we could, but we're gonna start with 24 from the social media votes. We're gonna take 12 of those from social media votes again of people illustrating what their projects are gonna be. We're gonna pick 6, and the plan is to take those 6 people, and hopefully through the gracious acts of kindness from our sponsors, we're going to be able to give them some kind of a parts budget, some stuff ahead of time, so that those 6 have a foundation to pull their build off with.
Wow. So far we have submissions from Florida, Minnesota, New Hampshire, North Carolina, and let's see, where's this one from? Florida. Another Florida. And I love that they're all different. They're all
Professional money. Take my money.
take my money. Derek Taylor, if you go to smokeoutrallyshop.com, our remaining inventory, which is very limited, is up on there. So you may want to get that in.
Oh my God. Ray's Moto Life. You are my hero. We may actually have to pull this off.
Topless tug of war.
No. Well, topless. Did he say topless tug of war? That's not bad either. Ray's Moto Life. Hill climbs with mini bikes at the little hill at the dirt track.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Mini hill climbs, dude.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
We're definitely going to put in a giant slip and slide.
An adult slip and slide.
Yeah, we're going to have a giant slip and slide
with
for that.
inner tubes and
Yep.
Dawn dish liquid.
We
I'm
just
told.
ran out of I think we just ran out of people to implement these things, because we had the dish liquid, we had the plastic, we had the water. It was just getting it there.
Yeah, and again, when I said that, like if I just sitting here thinking, you know, I never mentioned Camel. That poor dude
Oh
almost
my
killed
God.
himself.
He was so happy to go back to ranch life, Mark.
I mean, there's so many little people. I mean, Athena and Dawn and Roadside and even Dana, poor girl, came there for a little vacation, ended up painting everything.
I know.
Like everybody that just walked through there, whoever was all involved.
Hey, what are you doing?
With the speaking, with the speaking Spanish while you were setting the
Mrs. Monkey.
Oh yeah, I mean, like all those little people. Poor Randy, like it's just amazing. And again, if I left anybody out, I feel bad, but it's an eclectic group.
So I'm doing a speed test right now of Comcast's
oh boy,
super wonderful service.
It looks like it's only YouTube though.
Yeah,
I don't know. Tiger Ward, how did the Tankful project go? Any money we raise is good. And I'm still tallying. I know I have a few donations coming in. Even though the auction is closed, you can still make a general donation to Tankful should you choose. But right now we're sitting at between an $11,000 and $12,000 that's going to go to Meals on Wheels.
Nice.
Little bit shy of last year. But that's okay. I'm thrilled with it.
It's still amazing.
Every bit.
It's still amazing. We're last check was in the neighborhood of $12,000.
Yeah, I think so. Around there.
And this is the important thing about that. Like, if you guys don't know what Tankful is, go to the Smokeout Rally website. There's a complete description of what the program is all about. And the fact 63% of elderly Americans have to make a choice between buying food or filling their prescriptions. That's what Tankful is. Yeah. When you think of the thousands and thousands and millions of dollars we raise as motorcyclists every year for different charities, when you look at an entire city, like it started for us with the Hamsters USA, Ed Kerr, Dave Perowitz, all of those guys. They made donations to Meals on Wheels the first time in Spearfish, South Dakota, and they doubled the budget of the Meals on Wheels program there. They had an annual budget of $8,000, taking care of an entire community. Yep. So when you think about $12,000 that's raised through this event literally has the ability to change the world for some people.
It really does. So, and I'm so honored and I'm so thankful to every artist that reached out to be a part of it, and the artists that are still reaching out for 2024. I do have a list going for 2024. Eric Malotki, you did a tank for us in 2022. I would love to have you be a part of it next year.
Please. Anybody that wants to be part of this for 24, we're gonna work on it early, just like Professional Monkey's asking for us to get it up faster.
Yep, I'm gonna get the tanks out no later than the first of the year, and they have to be back to me by July 1st.
Yep.
That way I can start promoting it earlier. It depends. We have if we go with our same sponsor, Paco, who 2 years in a row has generously donated the half tanks for us. It will be a half tank again. Although
it's nice because at least people
to donate tanks too, which is great.
At least people get to hang these ones up on the wall.
They're beautiful.
The half tanks are a way to go because it's a nice piece of art. Heather's sister, we got to give a big shout out to Michelle.
Oh.
She killed it with this. 50,000 individual crystals on this tank.
Over 500 hours went into that tank.
Dude, when I hung that thing on the table, she stood there over top of me. She was waiting for me to do something wrong so she could smack me in the mouth.
I wouldn't touch it, but they were all nice and secure. And
look at that. God, this guy never ceases to amaze me.
Yeah, that's a good one. They're just all amazing. And it's really cool because, when I'm putting them on the stands, I get to really, because we do paint work, me and Chris do a lot of paint work, and get to the time these people put into them. These aren't easy,
No.
These guys aren't just throwing crap together. There's some real quality work there. I mean, look at that. Yeah. I mean, that's some amazing stuff.
And this was a newcomer to the paint world, man.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Absolutely.
Impressive.
The only thing, I'm going to throw this out there. If you reach out to me and ask to do a tank,
Please follow
through. I had a couple that received their tanks and then bailed on me at the last minute. There is a waiting list for this. So if you ask to do a tank, follow through. If you can't, send it back. I'll send it on to the next artist. I know shit happens.
We're going to publish your name in the Hall of Shame.
We're going to banish you from the tanks.
The tank would drive me crazy.
All right, man. Well, listen, we're an hour and a half into this, so we're going to save some of the stuff that we had for the end of the show for next week. Glad to be back after a crazy and hectic Smokeout. Thank you guys so much for making Smokeout a huge, huge success again this year.
Wait a minute, how many days?
Not enough.
Really? We're going to do that?
353 days, 11 hours, 33 minutes,
Did I
and
know?
47
I can come up
seconds.
with like 12 excuses by then.
No. Mm-mm.
There it is.
If you
The
haven't
clock
gotten
is
out
ticking.
by now, Mark.
Oh, boy.
Just when you think you're out.
I'm watching this bearing thing. That may be a good excuse.
No.
Bad bearing. No.
All right, man. Well, listen, one more time, we want to thank the good folks over at Dennis Kirk for leaving the back door of the studio open.
And giving us Paul.
So we could come in, and for Paul. Never going to be able to repay you for Paul.
Oh.
The studio, not even in comparison to Paul.
Paul's amazing.
all the rest of our sponsors up in that corner up there for helping us bring this show to you every week. Remember to hit your like and share.
Sharing is caring.
Set your notifications so that when
was
we
a
go
little scary.
live every Sunday at 9 p.m., you know that we're doing it. And until next week when we come back, same chopper time.
Same chopper channel.
See you on Sunday, Felicia.
We'd like to thank our sponsors for their continued support